Hello.
Hello.
That all seems to be working. There's always this awkward period of time when I have to go and check to see if anything's actually working. Right, and I always forget this bit as well. I always forget to put these little banners that I prepared up. Somebody needs to mute their...
Yeah, I did that.
Thanks, Vito. Where I sort of say what it is that it's about. And it is to say that this is the WordPress weekly news from WP Builds for the week commencing the 13th of January. That sounds really stale now that I'm doing it that way. Never mind. And before we begin properly, if you want to comment on this, it goes out to various places. Leo knows all about this technology because he's a right old star with it. But you either go to the Facebook group, which is wpbuilds.com/Facebook, and you can comment in there. Or you can go to wpbuilds.com/live, and all that does is show you a YouTube video, including the comment stream as well. And if you comment in any of those places, it comes in. An example would be David Von Gries, who all three of us stayed in a hotel with David about 9 months ago. So we all know David. Hello, David. Very nice. David, of course, behind the Page Builder framework. If you've got any comments, I'll try to put as many in as I possibly can. But I'll quickly remove that and say, today, joined by two people. Paul Lacey, who's a bit of a regular. He was unable to make it. I think he's got deadlines for client websites and things like that. But nevertheless, we're going to give it a go this week with my good friends Vito Peleg and Leo Mindell. I'm just going to let you have a minute or so to tell us about yourselves before we get stuck into it. So first one is over there. Over there. Vito. Tell us about yourself if we don't know who you are already.
So my name is Vito. I'm the founder at WP Feedback, which is a communication platform for WordPress professionals.
That was a really quick version this week.
You've
got it. Yeah.
I'm refining the messaging.
Yeah. That was good. Which leaves now. Can I? Oh no, I've blown it. Look, there he is.
It's close enough. It's close enough. Now.
Is it okay? There he is. It's Leo Mindell. Tell us about yourself, Leo. Leo's first time. It's his inaugural.
It is, and I've been told to behave.
Yeah, you've got to behave.
So, my name's Leo Mindell. I'm the founder of a digital sports agency, Sotic, that helps governing bodies and federations deliver online using WordPress. So, this coming year, we will deliver all of the world sailing during the Olympics on WordPress. The Six Nations, which starts in about 2 weeks' time, that's all on WordPress. And last week, we launched England Netball on WordPress, which is the biggest participation sport for women in the UK. All of those are on WordPress.
Tell me this, Leo, just because I'm interested. If the Six Nations is in a couple of weeks, how close to the wire does it get with them coming to you and sort of saying, "Oh, we've got like a massive amendment that we need to make"? In other words, with 2 weeks out, are you all not locked down with that? Is that one ready to go, or do you?
So the launch event is on this coming Wednesday. There's a few things left outstanding, as always. I think it was 3 weeks before last year that they came to us and told us that they've signed a brand new sponsorship deal with a small company called AWS. And AWS then said we have to review the whole of the website to ensure that it meets the compliance of AWS. And they took them 6 months to do it for the Formula One. And we were saying, it's starting next Wednesday. And it was, if ever you've watched 2012, where the guy's saying, so the website's launching Friday. Next Friday. You mean Friday? And it's like, yes, it launched. It launched. They did the approval in a week. And fortunately, because we use AWS, we got away with it. So
nice.
But it happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah. With big things like that as well. I expect
big sponsorship deals happen. So, that's it. That's life. That's what you live. We haven't got the phone number to ring up the Olympics yet and ask them to move it back a couple of days yet.
The deadline is the deadline, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's right.
It is.
David McCann joining us. Hi, David. Nice to have you with us again. Now, let's just quickly go and add that in. So we are WP Builds. It's David Wormsley and myself. We put out a podcast episode every Thursday, and on a Monday we put out a news episode. You can find that by going to this archive link just here. I should probably do better. Leo was pointing this out to me the other day. if I was to submit this site to Peacher, so that
you're going to submit it to Peach. I was going to say that was on my list later.
No, it's not going to go well, is it?
She's listening. I'm sure she's listening.
The news archive is somewhat buried, but anyway, if you click on that link, you get to it, and we're always doing the one in the top left, which in this case is number 97. Suddenly it occurred to me I'm nearly at 100 episodes of the news, and I should mark that in some way, but awesome. I haven't given it any thought. So this is the episode. If you click here, you'll get the audio, and basically we're going to talk over the stories that appear on this post. Maybe they'll come in some kind of order, maybe they'll just be a little bit random, but I'll try to put the ones on the screen as and when they come, and if Vito or Leo want to just interrupt, it's totally fine. What have we got here? Ronald says, hi all, shout out to the guests and hosts plus listeners.
What's up, Ronald?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice of you,
I have a few of your t-shirts somewhere, Ronald.
Ronald
we all do. We all do.
Yes. There, I've said it 4 times now, Ronald. Yes. So WordPress Core, maybe something amazing happened in WordPress Core this past week, but I didn't find anything. So for the first time in absolutely blooming ages, I left that section completely blank, which was a bit new for me. So essentially,
there is this discussion about the plugin, the Blocks repository, the Blocks directory, but that's on a different topic, right?
Yeah, well, we sort of covered that a little bit last week, but right. Do you mean the sort of area of that they're proposing to so that blocks installed look a bit like plugins installed?
Yeah. I think I was looking at last week's thing then, if that's the case, because I saw something with this in there.
Maybe we'll come to it. Do you know, by the time that I've recorded this, and it started off, and I set myself a target when I began on episode 1 of doing about 6 news articles per week, and now I'm on to about 40 or so. I just forget. I kind of forget what I've included. So you may well be right, Vito. Yeah, it may very well be that that I've mentioned it already. But in terms of the stuff that I've got in the order that I've got, we have Corey Miller. Now, I don't know if you know about Corey Miller, but Corey is the founder of iThemes. And he decided it's probably going back about 8 months ago or something, that he was going to step away from iThemes because it's been sold to, who's it been sold to, everybody? I
don't remember.
WordPress 101. I've forgotten. Anyway, it got sold. I'm going to say it was something like Flywheel or something. No, but Flywheel was
Liquid Web.
Thank you. Great. Bought by Liquid Web. And I think as the year that he was contracted to work for Liquid Web expired, he decided, okay, let's have a bit of a new direction. Didn't know what that new direction was, other than that he became a trustee of WP and Up, the charity working in the WordPress space to help with mental health. And he's been incredibly helpful with that. But he's decided to go and help Brian over at Post Status. Now, Post Status is just a fabulous resource. If you ever want to find out what's going in WordPress, well, you can listen to this thing. But if you actually want to know, go and listen to Brian Crosgard talk about it. And he's decided to team up. Apparently, they've been friends for years and years and years. And so this is kind of a bit of a match made in heaven, which is quite nice. Quite like that. I don't suppose there's much to say about that, really, other than congratulations, Corey. Seriously hope it works out well and that you and Brian, forge some new adventures and figure out how to tell us all about WordPress in the short, medium, and long term. Very good. This felt like a bit of a strange week in the hosting space. I don't know how many of you follow hosting news particularly closely, but I sort of do. And we had 2 things happen. Now, as I said a minute ago, Flywheel, I don't know, let's say last year, was bought by WP Engine. WP Engine this week decided that they were going to reduce their price of their starter plan. I can't remember what it's called, actually, their first tier, startup plan it's called. They were going to reduce that from $35 a month to $30 a month. And I presume that because they own Flywheel and Flywheel were reintroducing after a bit of a hiatus the tiny plan, that maybe they thought they needed to shift the pricing. It kind of feels to me as if players like Kinster being pegged at $30 a month kind of felt like maybe WP Engine were losing a bit of traction to some of those rivals. And there I've done it. I've managed to say Kinster in this episode as well. Yeah, anyway, so some movement in the hosting space. Things are cheaper this week than they were last week, which is always good. And my understanding is that if you were on WP Engine's more expensive plan, you don't actually need to do anything. I think you just get a lower bill. Yeah. Do you use them, Leo?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we use WP Engine for a number of our smaller sites. If you go back to the example that you gave of some of their other pricing plan, it was on the WP Engine
Flywheel.
That's it. No, the WP Engine one.
Yep.
If you look at the growth plan there, you can see that they've included. We use the growth plan for a number of our smaller sites. They've now doubled it. It's a really good way of doing it because effectively you've gone from. It's a great way of locking in customers. And an interesting thing that I got last week, not WP at all, but I just came up to my renewal for my Sky TV, and Sky TV just rolled over the deal I had for the last year to this year. So although you were supposed to be on a 1 year special deal to join, they've just renewed it. And they've renewed it with that 1 year deal. And it's almost like they're saying, they're realizing the objective in the world these days is to stop churn. Yeah, you know, it used to be churn. Everything was about churn, and they just pick up where somebody else left off. And I think we're now getting to the point of stability, and consumers and users want long-term solutions. And for this, as a supplier that uses something like WP Engine, this is great because it effectively means to me, well, I can throw another couple of sites on without having to think about where I'm going to go. For the sites that I'm on. I mean, what it's going to mean when I sat down with WP Engine about larger sites is a completely different matter, but I can see it. And I think you're right when you talk about it in relation to Flywheel, because they'll have to have a difference. I mean, that baby plan that you talked about that's really baby, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one site, 5,000 visitors a month, 5 gigs of disk space, 20.
Yeah, just starting off.
Yeah, I don't think I think most of my sites do that in an hour.
So,
just my smallest sites do that in an hour. But there you go. It's life. It's a great way, and it's also a great way to get people away from hosting. I mean, the more that people host away from running their own hosting provider and going to these sort of things and handing this horrible stuff over to somebody who actually can do it, the better.
Yeah. It's getting harder and harder to actually understand how to deploy this stuff yourself.
Well, and we'll cover it in the security and bits, which I know you like to breeze over.
Yeah, very quickly.
Very quickly. But
it's too complicated.
A lot of that is you should be, Nathan. Stick to what you're good at, Nathan.
Which is sitting in a chair talking. That's about it.
I didn't answer.
No. Right, let's move on though.
Yeah,
because that was
I spoke to the guys from WP Engine this week, and I got the kind of like the behind the scene reason for all of this. And essentially it's because they bought Flywheel last year, so they needed to kind of like balance things out with that competitor that they basically consumed, but also to kind of match it across the ecosystem. Another cool thing is that they're preparing for launching a few really interesting stuff this upcoming year. So they just want to make sure that there is no reason for anyone, for any reason, to leave while they're waiting for the bigger announcements that will come out throughout the year.
Right. Oh, interesting. Good to have somebody with the inside track. Just before I push this button, I want to say, spot the difference.
It's Paul Lacey. There you go. You were missing Paul, so I had to fill in.
He's back with his Mr. Robot, aka Matt report.
That's it. And I even left the tag on the top just to prove that. There you go. There you go. I just
you need the run cloud.
That's
thing,
it. The run cloud.
That's right.
That's it. I just thought you'd. That's it. We're missing him. Yeah.
Oh, bless.
Although should I call him Nathan?
No. No. Right, I'm gonna call this one and move it on because this is quite nice. If you are a resident of the Houston area, you've got a WordCamp back, because apparently, I mean, I did not know about this, but here we go. WordCamp Houston kind of went away for up to 10 years, which is a really long time. And allegedly, it's the birthplace of Matt Mullenweg, and so it sort of seems fitting in some sense. Let's have a look, see what the dates are. If you're in the Houston area, May the 9th to the 10th at the Hilton Houston NASA Clear Lake. Now, there's an easy thing to say. They're expecting 250 to 300 attendees, and it's being organized by Christina Hawkins. So if you want to get yourself down as a speaker, there's a link down here. I should say this is on WP, I keep saying it, WordPress Tavern. They're accepting speakers. There's a link down there, and also they are looking for sponsors to go from $150 right up to $300. And Leo, you handily wanted to mention another one, which I missed, something about Glasgow.
Yeah, so Glasgow is on in a couple of weeks' time. The WordCamp Glasgow, run by Heather, or Heather is, I think, is the lead. That's the first time they've been on for a while, I believe. There's some really good speaker lineup for Glasgow in the UK. It is quite funny in a way that the first WordCamp in the UK after the B word is going to be run by Heather. So that as any of you who are involved or know anything about Heather, she is a big talker about what's going to happen post and around Brexit. So she's leading that camp, and it's got a good lineup.
I really like Heather Burns.
Are you coming?
Yeah, a lot.
I'm actually in Edinburgh that day, going to the Kolkata Cup, Scotland, England. So, would you believe it? I'm literally 30 miles away.
Yeah, you're like 40 miles away. What were the dates again for the Glasgow one?
The 8th of February.
8th of February.
It's really now.
Yeah. Are you going to that, Vito?
I'll be already in Thailand, preparing for Asia.
There's a lot of speakers on there that people will recognize on Glasgow.
Leo, it is at this point I feel that I need to say, just take the cap off, mate.
Thank you. I was waiting. For that.
It's
not working, is it? It's not working.
Good luck under the
Are you going to tell that to Paul Lacey?
No, I'm not.
He pulls it off.
Yeah, he did. He keeps it on, but he pulls it off.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah. I need more hair. There you go.
No, it's the fact that you chose to put the headphones on.
I did it on purpose.
Sorry, before. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Ronald says he's planning to go there. I presume he's talking about Houston with Yith 6 times now. 6 times. Right. Okay. What were you going to say, Vito? Sorry.
That Ronald is going to Glasgow.
I wonder if it's Glasgow.
Yeah, okay. I think he's going to Glasgow.
Okay.
Anyway.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay. Next one then is, let's have a look at this one. Now, this may be of interest to particularly Vito, as the owner or the founder. I don't know what you'd like to go under the name of a plugin. So this is Justin Tadlock on the 13th of January talking about the fact that kind of the direction of travel seems to be towards blocks, and that over time WordPress potentially may be kind of pluginless and themeless. Obviously, the capabilities that plugins and themes have will be migrated. It's not like all of a sudden nothing will work in WordPress anymore. But it's going to be kind of put into blocks. And so we've had kind of visual representations of what the area in a block would look like. But he's talking about the fact that at the moment, the guidelines for the block directory, so that will be the repo that you go to find your new blocks in the same way that you go to the repo to find plugins. The guidelines explicitly state at the moment, here's the key phrase, block plugins are blocks. They must not include advertisements, prompts, or promotional messages. In other words, we've got very used to the idea that if you download a free plugin, that there is the capability of that plugin. Now, be it large, aka Yoast last Black Friday, or be it small, little text, insignificant little text link buried somewhere within the UI of your plugin. It's been okay. You've been allowed to sort of say, well, we've got this premium offering. Come over here and click this link and try it out. Well, this appears to say, no, that's going to be disallowed. And I think if I was a plugin developer and I was planning to move towards blocks, that might concern me a little bit. The article goes on to say that this might just be like phase 1. Maybe it's just so that not everybody in the first iteration jumps in with like promotional messages. Just clear them out for the first few months, years, whatever, and then maybe they can creep back in. But Vito, I think you'd be a good one to begin us with this one.
First of all, I totally agree that it's just like, it doesn't really make much sense to go about it like this from a product maker point of view. But what I kind of, after reading this, it kind of seemed like the experience that the core team has had with plugins and themes, with all of these pop-ups everywhere and prompts and all of these notices and so on. That's their kind of feel. But the problem is that they're looking at this just from, it seems like they're looking at this just from the consumer's angle, not really taking into account that the people that drive innovation are product makers from all over the world that needs to sustain themselves as well in some way. What I would do, and I think that's such an obvious kind of thing to do there, is just create a designated area. Instead of putting this all over the place and allowing it everywhere like on plugins, or not allowing this at all like they're doing it now, just put a box that people can put HTML and do whatever they want in it. That's it. It could be as simple as that.
But Vito, the question is really is who are the advertisements aimed at? I think that's the key point. If you're building something like you're building a website, and also my view of this is that where we're going long term is that, you know, there was a discussion by Matt Mullenweg that he said that he wanted 80% of the internet to be run by WordPress. Now, I think, you know, you and I have had this discussion before. In fact, all three of us had this discussion before about the fact that I believe a lot of that's going to be driven by mobile, and that's also going to be driven by mobile apps. So we've got to get WordPress enabling and powering mobile apps. Now, if you're enabling and powering mobile apps and you're just chucking adverts at people, nobody's going to want to know. The question is that, as you rightly say, the builder of those websites does need to see that information, and you as a supplier of that technology to that need to be able to advertise to the builder. So I think the key bit you said there, and I agree, and I think there was a discussion about this a couple of weeks ago on WP Builds, that there will be a notification area inside of admin for these sort of things to go into. Does that sound familiar?
There's going to be like a common framework for how they can look. So rather than constraining where they appear, it's more the appearance. So in other words, they'll have a standard. So I mean, I use, which is
not a good thing for a marketer and a product maker, because you want to do your own kind of like messaging, and if you and branding and all of this kind of stuff. So if you just get that one slot that everyone uses the same, and it's probably gonna, maybe that will allow them to do it in a more prompt kind of environment than what I'm suggesting, but you lose a lot of flexibility and a lot of control over your product with the messaging.
It depends where you're aiming your audience at, Vito, because your majority of your audience that you're targeting are B2B builders. You know, you're interested in other WordPress developers, but the people who build the websites that use it, you know, I would say that 98% of the people who ever go to a website that has WP feedback on it, a very nice feedback tool, tells you what's happening, etc., plug, don't the people who are using it, the end consumers, don't care. I mean, the same with us. They don't care where we get our components. And I use car analogy lots, but a good example is when you go to buy a car, you don't care where the headlights come from. You don't want it to be screaming at you that they bought the indicators from here, or that they bought the tires from there. You just want the car to work. And I guess what they're saying is they realize that this, and maybe it was Yoast shot themselves in the foot at the Black Friday last year when everybody suddenly got spammed by Yoast at the end.
It wasn't only Yoast.
I know,
but we're not saying anything about other people who are in the, you know, watching now.
No, I know, but my point is that when that happened, everybody was up in arms, and maybe they're just saying, guys, we want your product, but we don't think that our new generation of block plugins, we just don't want this to be full of adverts.
Sure, that I can understand. But that's because there was no kind of well, there are set rules, but people always try to test boundaries, you know.
Never known that. I don't test boundaries. Stay in the rails always.
Yeah, I think that's gonna happen there as well. But just by not taking this into account from day one, it's kind of a naive kind of model to it, because you can see what happened over the past 15 years with themes, and you can see what happened with plugins. So why are you making the same mistake again, or trying to fix it in a way that actually hurts one of the biggest drivers of the community over the past 10 years, which are product makers?
I've kind of been wondering about this quite a lot, and I was wondering if it just made a sensible thing to have as a kind of like a trial guideline. In other words, before we launch this is where we may be going. In other words, they've firmly put their post in the sand. I just can't see. I can't see people allowing this, notable plugin and theme developers, well, in this case, block developers, allowing this to happen. And I'm sure there's a happy compromise. In other words, if you, let's say, for example, if there's some kind of API whereby you can interact with who gets to see the adverts. In other words, the admin of the site has complete oversight over who gets to see anything which is a WordPress admin advertisement. So in other words, I am the admin and I'm quite happy to let other administrators see it, or just me, or nobody, or subscribers can see them all as well, whatever, some kind of control, because it's presumably, and I don't know if you've got any data on this, Vito, presumably you upsell quite a lot of people.
It's about 7%, right? That can go, which is great. But maybe it was 0.7%. Maybe that sounds a little more realistic. But to that kind of point of creating a user, I love this idea. This is we already employed this in our plugin, understanding that there are different people that are using the website, and the current WordPress kind of user roles don't necessarily serve this, because there is no differentiator between the website builder and the website owner. So creating even like a super admin, like you have on multi-site, that will totally solve this problem. Just one user role that the person that created the environment has. And we did this with we created 3. So WordPress have user roles and we have user types of our own within the plugin. So this way the upgrade button can be shown only to the relevant people. We call them webmasters.
I think we're saying the same thing here. You're aiming your sale, Vito, is your real product is going to other website owners or website administrators. I think that this is aimed to say we don't want the consumer of the website to be inundated with stuff which isn't relevant, and that I think is right, because otherwise that detracts from the product that people build.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, I'm sitting here. You download some apps on your phone at the moment, and they're just blasted by yet another advert, and you go, I can't use this app, it's so blasted. And that's what I think they're trying to remove, and saying, no, we're not going to allow that into the block eco structure, which I think is a good thing.
And another thought, maybe, as I've said, maybe they're just setting it up as the absolute, this is the ground from which it cannot go any further in another direction. In other words, if we say this from the outset, we don't have to regress. Right. We can modify this in a sort of more conciliatory manner towards block developers in the future, but rolling it back would be extraordinarily hard.
That's a very good example. I mean, Sony is a company that does that all the time. They've always been a very, very restrictive on the content that's allowed onto their platforms when they first launch a platform. There's lots of examples of this going back, and then they have to bend it to otherwise they lose market share, because they realize that certain content, which I'm sure you can work out what content we're talking about, starts becoming drives the use of their products. So whether that's VHS or the old Betamax through to DVD players, etc. They block certain content and then realize they were losing market share, so they then allowed that content later on.
Interesting discussion, and no doubt one that will carry on. But obviously for people like Vito, and if you've got anything to do with a plugin or a theme and you're intending to be in any way, shape or form creating blocks, you want to know if this is a thing. So keep your eyes peeled. There is a link down here to the block directory announcement post, and presumably.
But altogether, it's really exciting that something like this is coming.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
you know,
it's easy to lose sight of that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It was interesting because in the piece that I put out this morning, which gets repurposed straight to YouTube, somebody posted a comment on that video just saying, what is the difference between a plugin and a block? And it was quite nice writing that out and thinking, well, this is an exciting moment in WordPress's history, actually. So yeah, if you're a developer, keep your eyes peeled. Right, I'm going to move on if that's all right. Yeah. This is such an interesting, and the numbers are just amazing. The numbers I find fascinating in this piece. Yeah. This is Pippin Williamson, who went by the moniker of Pippin's Plugins until I don't know. Let's say it was a few years ago. They rebranded and they became Sandhills Development. But every single year, and you can read all of his previous years right up to 2012, he produces this kind of like annual report. What does he call it? The year in review, where he just talks about everything that's happened in a really open way. In a way that if I ran a plugin, I would struggle to put these numbers down on paper and publish it for the world to see, just because, I don't know, talking about money in particular is I think difficult for the British. Anyway, he breaks down what the company have done, what they're intending to do. But the bit which I always find myself dwelling on is when he talks about his revenue and his profit. And this, I suppose, is the interesting set here. 3.5 million in revenue. And bear in mind that Sandhills Development have, I think, 5 or 6 plugins. Some of them very, very successful, others far less successful. But a small WordPress company releasing some fairly niche and some fairly, very broadly used plugins can have 3.5 million in revenue. Not quite, very, very close, 3.454 in revenue. And here's the way it all breaks down. Paid 1.8 million in payroll, an eye-watering 144,000 in insurance, legal and accounting fees, etc. And then he breaks it down by plugin. This is where I got really interested. Affiliate WP. So if you've never used it, but more or less every time you click an affiliate link which is connected to a WordPress site, it's quite likely that the company that set that scheme up will have been using affiliate WP. So I don't know, for example, if Vito uses it, but it could have been. Yeah, it's that one. Easy digital downloads, 1 million more or less on the nail. And then it just gets smaller and smaller. Restrict Content Pro, nearly 500,000. And wow. There we go. Just look at those numbers.
Amazing. It's beautiful to see. And I've been reading these reports for a while. And when I started this business, this has been a huge data source for me going into this business model of launching products. So I recommend to everyone just to read back. You can start from here, but seeing the history, because you have a snapshot of a decade of how a company evolved in this ecosystem. So it's really beautiful to see and to read the post going back. This time he went all out. So he doesn't really go out and tells people about profits. And even over the past few years, even the revenue sections have kind of become smaller and smaller. Sometimes weren't even there at all. So I think he went through this evolution that you're describing, that you kind of at first you don't care because you're excited about every dollar that you make. So you tell everyone, and then you're kind of all right, I have people looking at me, so let's not show all my cards. But now they've matured enough to go back and educate the community and give these stats that no one else does. I look a lot and it's interesting to see this and to see Buffer. And I think even on this post, he posted a tweet from Baremetrics.
Did he? Okay.
Right. You see, there is a tweet saying Baremetrics for the first time is profitable this year, with $150,000 out of 2 million revenue or something like that. Yeah, you saw it. You just glazed through it.
Was it that one there?
Yeah.
It is there. Yeah.
So that's really cool to see it from that angle, because this is a full-on bootstrapped company, which the vast majority of the WordPress ecosystem is. So trying to figure it out like that without bringing outside money, it's a challenge, but it's interesting to see how they made it happen. Beautiful article.
Yeah, really nice, and does it every year, and it's must take like half a week just to write this. It's quite amazing and very honest. Love it. They've got I think 6 new people this year that they've taken on, and as you can see, but just fascinating for me that within the WordPress space, having a plugin which enables people to create affiliate systems can be worth let's say 1.3 million. Amazing.
I think the interesting thing I find from it and all of these things is that, as I've had long chats with Vito about this always, that you're having to change and pivot because this is how they're making money at the moment, and it's great that they are. The question will be, and I'm sure everybody who's an owner knows this, is what am I going to make money doing in the future? Because these things, once they become commoditized, or once they become, the markets dry up that you had, or the markets suddenly appear that you're not involved in. So a good example could be, not saying it's going to be, but could be that the affiliates market just disappears tomorrow because of other things, or something else will take it on. And that's where you've got to be, you're always changing. But there is, but a recurring revenue model, and I know, Nathan, you've covered this on a couple of podcasts in the past, the whole recurring model and how you subscriptions and those sort of things. It is interesting how a lot of people have changed their models over the time, and they've gone to a slightly, maybe it's not a one-off payment, but they're now going to subscriptions and this, and you just got to change with what the market wants.
He put his fees up, I think it was like 200%. So essentially, I think it was double a couple of years ago. He just decided to take the bold step of having far less customers, but customers who were more committed, shall we say, to his products. And it seems to have been very clever. There's
a great person to talk to that about is Andrew. He's done some stuff on his side. I think, Vito, you've had discussions with me about what Andrew does on Elegant Marketplace and how they've changed some of their stuff. It is just a fascinating world, and you do have to keep adjusting your model to the business you're in to be.
I think that's the exciting part about our type of business, that you always have to be looking to what's coming next, not what happened last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for them to produce the report.
Yeah, indeed, and doing it every year. It's really nice.
And also to touch that point, it was really interesting to see the diversification, especially from your point, Leo, not only with other plugins that kind of serve other purposes. So essentially understanding that they already have reputation and user base, and to see what else they can do. So I think if you read last year's report or 2 years ago, it was talking about that was like the year of acquisitions, where they bought a bunch of stuff, so that this year, they were hoping back then that by this year they will get them to where they are, as we see this on this report. While also kind of diversifying to real estate, taking profit and looking at this as a proper company, which again, I can't preach enough about on these conversations, that this is one of those things. Allowing people to see these numbers creates a reality that most people are not even aware that exists. Understanding that there is a company that after this amount of years created $3.5 million in annual revenue with a $700,000 profit. Beautiful. So now you have that as a frame. Now we will see that kind of happening, that people will be looking at this as kind of a benchmark for their own businesses, and starting to think a little broader, diversification and all this kind of stuff. What are you going to do with all the profits? Really interesting.
Yeah, it was good. We'll move on to barn2.co.uk. I know Leo had something on this one and he wants to compare it to a different organization, shall we say. It was just interesting. It came my way. It was all about the usage. I can't say the word usage. There we go. Statistics for WooCommerce. I don't use WooCommerce in any way, shape or form. So it always baffles me, these numbers. I've no real insight into what it means. And I was slightly confused by the numbers anyway. However, I think this is where we're at. This seems to be the key paragraph. Built with reports that in January 2019, a total of, let's call it 3 million, because it's darn close. Sure. 3 million websites use WooCommerce, or to put it another way, 53,045 of the world's top million websites were running on WooCommerce. 0.6% of all websites, 5.3 of the top million websites, which is quite, I suppose it's not breathtaking, but it's pretty amazing. But then these are the bits that which always get me interested. The pie chart, I love a good pie chart. I'm never going to live that down. I didn't say that. But here we go. I just find this quite interesting. So this is looking at where WooCommerce stands in relation to other platforms. And it's pretty close between WooCommerce, Checkout, and Shopify. Surprised that Magento is down here in 13%, and then you get the also rans, PrestaShop, BigCommerce, OpenCart, with other platforms making up 37%. Don't quite know what that means. And then there's this one as well, which shows what WooCommerce looks like just measured against all the other WordPress options. So, for example, easy digital downloads, WP Store, MarketPress, and so on and so forth.
Which you just saw the revenue for. So imagine that 100 times bigger.
That was it. That's what I was thinking. So easy digital downloads. What was it? Was it 1.3?
1 point something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they did quite well.
Yeah.
And that was this little orange slice. So good grief. I mean, I know WooCommerce is free, and I would imagine that a significant piece of that blue pie is just using the free, version.
It is free as well.
Yeah, true. Good point. Anyway, there you go. But I know Leo wanted to say something in relation to this.
I think this is a really interesting thing of where e-commerce is going anyway. We have this discussion with our clients a lot of times about what do we use for e-commerce, and you can't help but realize that the two biggest players in the e-commerce world are not listed in there, and that's obviously Amazon and eBay. And I don't know, but I would probably guess that Amazon now just dwarfs everything else.
Oh, good grief!
Because I know I think you're similar to myself, Nathan, but the Amazon guy knows exactly where to deliver when he comes to your house. Because that's it. They're coming on a regular basis.
Yeah,
it's more often than the milkman these days. Yeah. And this is the world that we're in.
That phrase could be taken in so many ways.
I know. But this is the world we're in, and it's a very interesting argument. Why would you actually why would you build something that you want to build on your own platform rather than on Amazon and sell it through there? Because obviously they do the fulfillment and they do the returns and they do all that. Where we find that we're using more and more WooCommerce, where it's really interesting, is things like digital logins, giving people access to things. So in other words, using it as the front end element to a CRM. So that member management. Because actually it's great. It does that tool. It does the taking of an order, fulfilling that information. It's really, really good at it. I do also remember, was this on something else you did? I'm sure it was on somewhere I saw that while WordPress is the biggest single CMS, I think WooCommerce comes in second. Beyond all the others,
of all of them. Ahead of Drupal and Joomla and all of them. Yeah, remarkable.
It's the same argument that good old Google can say. Google is the biggest search engine, and the second biggest search engine is YouTube, owned by Google.
Yeah.
And both dwarf everything else that's out there.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It's interesting. It's interesting. So, whether you see WooCommerce as it originally was perceived, I believe, as just an e-commerce plugin, or you see it as a separate element that you can use, that will be interesting.
My friend Bob Don, who does well until recently did the Bob WP podcast. He's now just his entire content. So he makes content, he makes posts, and he makes podcasts, but he's just doing WooCommerce content now. So huge is the WooCommerce area that he can make a living making content just about WooCommerce, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah. Speaking of Amazon, nice segue there, Leo. I appreciate that. I don't know if that was intentional or otherwise. I got this email this week, right? And we were talking about affiliates earlier. I years and years ago, like a decade ago, I signed up to be an Amazon affiliate. And I can't think of a situation where I've used it. My balance has always remained zero because I never promote Amazon. However, I get these emails from Amazon. And I was just interested to see that this week, so it's not really news as such, because I don't know how stale this piece of content is, but Amazon are promoting WordPress as the platform of choice to build a system of let's say they're trying to promote their affiliates to go out and make content about their products. So in other words, I don't know, you want to like create a blog channel about men's grooming products or something. Right. They're basically saying, do it with WordPress, go out and do it with WordPress, and then find a good host. Presumably they're going to say, just figure out how to do it with AWS. But I was just fascinated by that the world's biggest website, probably after Facebook and Google, is suggesting using WordPress. In a way, I'm surprised they don't have their own blogging tool.
Right. So, like, this connects to. Sorry, Leo, go ahead.
No, Vito.
So this connects to just being an affiliate, just being an associate of Amazon.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys remember, but like I took a course in 2009 or 2008 that taught me how to build a WordPress website and populate it with some content, and then throw in a bunch of affiliate stuff on it from Amazon. That's when I got my Amazon Associates account, and just drive traffic. So like that's the easiest path to market for Amazon to get even more traffic that didn't end up on their website, but through everyone else's blogs. So that's been going since 2009, as far as I know, like this. But what I would imagine is that since 2009, they've seen that a lot of the revenue coming from affiliates has originated in WordPress-based blogs that provided value to readers, and therefore they're using that.
I would absolutely agree, Vito. And thank you for letting me talk after you. That's only for Pisha. That's only for Pisha. It's only for Pisha. If you think about when I've written a number of blogs on things like live streaming, and whenever you do write these things, invariably you end up saying, people say, well, where can I get this equipment? Where can I get this and this? And it's almost become, well, you can't say go to page 48 of the Argos catalog, because that doesn't, happen anymore. So you actually end up saying, this is the link of that microphone or this camera on Amazon. It's just the easiest way, even if you're not directly trying to recommend it. And I guess it's one thing, Amazon do not have a platform, as you said, that I'm aware of that competes in content creation. So
it's interesting because remember all those years ago, Google had their Blogger platform. I don't know if anybody still uses that, but I think in the day it was quite widely used. But
Yahoo shut their one down last year, didn't they? Or was it Yahoo?
Well, I mean, I think everything with the word Yahoo in front of it was at some point called into question, wasn't it? What a sad demise that was. Great giant. By the way, getting back to WooCommerce, of course, Ronald. Yith, that's 7 times I've said the word yith now, and that's 8.
You're doing better than me. I can't say it. I know. I've got the T-shirt, but can't prove it.
He says Yith 9 depends on Woo and employs 30 staff around the world. The trend seems to remain positive, and I monitor it all the time. So there we go. I'd forgotten, of course, that Ronald's company Yith 10. specialize in WooCommerce. Listen, with about 13 minutes to go, there's some things that I'm just going to have to miss out, if that's all right. And this Dolly platform, the next piece that I was going to mention, that's going to go. Is that all right, Leo? I know that you wanted to.
I was only going to say it's another alternative to WordPress Engine and Flywheel. Next.
Okay. Yeah, go and check it out. If you didn't hear it, there's a new alternative to WP Engine and Flywheel called Dolly. There you go. Right. So I'm going to do these ever so quickly. I'm just going to quickly open a few of them because I haven't opened them so far. Look at me ever so quickly opening things in other tabs. So this is plugins, themes, and blocks. I've now added blocks in. So Punit's Power Pack for Beaver Builder, they've released this nice option to style the registration form. There's not much more to say, really. Use the Beaver Builder UI, make your login form look dead cool in about 4 seconds flat. Really nice. Elementor, just keep busting it out. They promised faithfully 6 months ago that every month they'd release this kind of like template kit where you press a button and download just everything that you need to create a particular theme of website. And they've gone for the magazine template this time around. And, just look at it. Look, just that image alone would take me about an hour.
Well, to build the GIF, to
get the GIF, to just do all that fun stuff, to get the screenshots, to get the message exactly right. You just stick it at the top of a blog post, just throw away stuff. They're so good. You can get it if you're a pro user, and this article goes on to show, look, here's a bunch of home pages, here's a bunch of pop-ups. So it's not just the actual pages, they're styling the pop-ups and stuff as well. So that's really nice. If you're a Divi user and you use Toolset, there's a tutorial there that you can learn how to do it. WP security audit log has been updated. What else? There's a few new options in iTheme security, and you can now download your this. I quite like this actually. WPM UDev's Forminator, which is a free version. Well, it's a free plugin. It's got hardly any of the features hobbled in the free version as in the pro version. It's really good, in other words. The giant free plugin for creating forms appears to be Contact Form 7, which is quite limited, I think, now in its scope. So they've built an option to basically click a few buttons.
How did this happen? How did Contact Form 7 became the basic standard?
I don't know, because even in the day when it, a decade ago when I was using it, I was thinking, not so sure about this. I think it's just because it's totally free and it just doesn't break anything. But yeah, you're right. Even things like the sort of the pop-up when there's a failure kind of is a bit jarring. Anyway, Forminator will import all of those forms for you. You match your fields up, give it some options that, if you've used any add-ons for Contact Form 7, and you're done. So there we go. That was my plugin. Oh, that was my plugin stuff. Anybody want to comment on that? If not, I'll just crack on.
No,
that's a no. All right, fine. What have we got here? I don't know anything about this, so I'm just going to raise it as a thing that you might want to go looking at. There's a Facebook group called Martech, and they throw a bunch of deals. Sometimes WordPress, mostly I think not WordPress, but there's a plugin called WP Reset, which does exactly that. I think you click a button and it resets your WordPress install. I don't know what the permutations are, but they describe it as being a bit like your own time machine.
You go back. It's like you revert back.
Is it? Yeah, so you can roll it back to a particular point, or you can do the nuclear reset, in other words, just completely destroy. Anyway, allegedly it works quite well, and it's on offer at the moment. There's 68 of 500 agency licenses left. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying there it is, because I've never used
I heard great things about this, but
good.
I haven't seen it myself, but there's a really great buzz about this in the past couple of months.
Oh, great. Okay. By the way, Ronald's saying mission complete. Look, 10 mentions. Ta-da. Yeah. Nice. Job done. So the next things are all about security. Again, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this, but here we go. Whoops, don't want to do that. I've just opened it in a new window. I don't even want to do that one. There we go. Did you want to mention some of these, Leo? I'm not sure if you did.
I didn't. I think what this is showing, and it shows all the time, particularly even if you start looking at like the last one, the SQL injection, but this one is a good example. We are a Wordfence customer. Mark does a great product. And the reality of these things is if you want to sleep at night, you've got to get somebody else to start doing some of these things which maybe are not your core business. If this is your core business, if your name is Tim and you're a security expert, then great. But for the rest of us mere mortals, this is hard work. This is massively hard work. And you've got to, people like Wordfence, and there are other products out there, are just taking advantage or enabling you to deal with this. And it's got to that point, I find, with a lot of this stuff that this is an area where, unless you want it to be your core business, make sure you find a supplier that can deliver this for you.
Yeah, thank you. We on this live version, we just tend to sort of gloss over the story and not get into it. But it's a salutary message. We ought to be taking it really seriously.
There was a I don't know if any of you else got this, got an email. I got an email or a link just before Christmas from somebody who said, this report is the report that's completely useless to be read after you've been data breached.
Yeah.
In other words, it's like, if you're not, by the time you're reading this and you've been data breached, it's too late.
It's too late.
And that's it, so there you go.
So here we have a critical. So all I'm going to do is say, if these plugins ring a bell and these names ring a bell, go and update them. So critical authentication bypass vulnerability in Infinite WP client plugin. That's one of them. Again, on Wordfence, easily exploitable vulnerabilities patched in WP data reset plugin. That isn't the one we've just mentioned, is it? That's because that was called WP reset. I mean,
the one before in the Infinite WP, because Infinite WP is used by multiple sites to get into multiple sites.
Exactly. Good point.
That 300,000 could be massively more.
Yeah. Good point. The purpose of Infinite WP.
That's the client. That's the plugin on the client side. That's the standalone one. It's not the network website.
Good point. The client plugin. Good point. And finally, this is quite interesting. It's not an alert. It's basically just Kinsta being a good custodian of this data and sort of saying, here's everything you need to know about SQL injections. It might be your bag, it might not, but it's a nice and long article where they go through how it can be performed and some of the things that you can do to mitigate against it. Right, okay, I'm going to be very, very brief. Peacher, by the way, has just come and dropped a comment. What does she say? She's
been on my feed the entire
She's broadcast. Been on and she's been moaning that we're not listening to her.
Oh, Peacher, that's the first comment that's dropped in.
Because it was over there. That's the annoying thing when you do the watch parties, it creates comment speeds on everyone.
Yeah, sorry about that. Is this where all the cool comments are? Do you know I can see the YouTube ones as well, but maybe not today. I haven't got a single YouTube one coming in, so maybe that connection's been broken. If you're commenting,
she's been on my group because I share this.
Got it. No, you've got to be in my. Gotta be in my gang.
That's right. You don't have to give it any airtime. You don't have to give it any airtime to Keisha.
Well, I am doing. I'm being nice. So she says, Leo, I'm keeping score of airtime. Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Speaking of Peacher, though, check it out. As if she could have come in at a better time. Look at this. Here is a YouTube video of Peacher and I having a chat because we did our monthly UI UX session in which she sort of takes a website and breaks it down, and she did Arindo Duque's website amongst others. WP Ultimo, he wrote in and wanted her to have a look at it, so you can go and check that out. And there are the restream comments. Whatever it's called. I also released a podcast episode with my friend David Wormsley about information overload. It's all about like how do you message correctly to your clients. And last but by no means least, what else have we got? No, nothing there. Just a few things here.
So can we on that with Peacher, can we challenge Peacher to the site that we said, Nathan? Do you want to tell her which site she should do?
No.
Come on.
No, we're not doing that.
Peacher, I think you should actually do the WP Builds website as part of your UX test next time.
I've actually gone red
It was like, that's
it's
it.
not good. It's not good.
That's
But it
that's
is left
It's not
aligned.
that he's blushing. He's just
That's what you said.
extremely
Do you know, it
mad.
was really interesting. It was fascinating. We did this live thing, and Peacher was sort of saying, don't use Montserrat. Montserrat is not, and it wasn't a Windows site, by the way. I can't remember whose site it was. She was saying, don't use Montserrat. All the while I was thinking, every single character on the WP Builds website is in Montserrat. Every one of them.
It's that classic thing when you do it yourself, and that's it. You realize that you're the preacher, and you're just, oh my God, she'll pull you apart. She'll absolutely wreck you.
That's why I'm not ready.
Yes. She's saying yes. Go on.
I know she is. She says, yeah, let's do it. To which Nathan replies, no, let's not do it. It's too humiliating. But moving on, because I do have to go in about 2 minutes, in all honesty. This is cool. That's not cool. That's a cookie warning or something. Bleeping Computer. What a great name for a website. If you've got a Windows 7 machine and you don't want to pay to upgrade it to Windows 10, go to this website. There is a free way of doing it. It's a kind of a loophole, a bit of a workaround. So it may not last forever, but at the time of writing, which was the 12th of January, it still did. Basically, you just tick a few boxes in, I think, the media player or something. Can't remember where. And it then says, yeah, fine. You can have Windows 10 completely for free. So there we go. Weird.
It's okay. Very quickly on that one, Nathan, while you're covering that, it's a very clever thing by Microsoft to do anyway, because they know that the biggest problem they have is supporting things like Windows 7. So if they've given you the opportunity to get away from it, it actually benefits them anyway. And then when you upgrade to Windows 10 and your computer just dies, they know that you're going to get a new computer. So it's actually, I mean, it's a double benefit for them, because at least then they can hold up their hand and say, well, we gave you an option, so we don't have to worry about it, and we just want to bin it. Legacy support. We all know supporting legacy code is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, good point. Really good point. So
that's what that's what they do on Apple as well. Like the software as it evolves forces you to upgrade the device every 4 years.
Yeah. Unless you're called Leo, in which case you buy the most expensive brand new one like the moment it comes out. Isn't that right, Leo?
Oh, please say it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The gadget man. When he first said, I was like, so you're the gadget man.
Yeah,
he really is.
Thank you.
Pine Tools. This is super cool, right? Never come across this before, but basically there's this one page where you can just do so many things to do with, crunching numbers, date times. It'll convert images for you. So it could be a very cheap solution to something like Smush or Short Pixel or something like that. And it'll split files, base encode them. It's got a CSS inliner and beautifier if you've written some dodgy CSS or some dodgy HTML and you want to have it all. Anyway, it's just all chucked onto the one page. And last but by no means least, this, I honestly didn't know this, and I'm sure this will come as a bit of a shock to many people. If you structure your data, it has no impact upon search engine ranking. I'm saying, not whether people will discover it, because obviously if it's structured, it will appear more easily. It will be easier to consume by the viewer on the screen, because as an example, this all came about because this lady who's a food blogger received a notice from Google which stated that it would be helpful to add calorie counts. And so she panicked, got back in touch with Google to say, look, is this affecting my ranking? The quick reply was no, but wouldn't it be nice if you included that, essentially, so that other people could benefit from your efforts? So I just assumed that the structure directly impacted where you appeared, but apparently not. So there you go.
I thought it was a way for them to promote the ones that do.
Yeah.
That follow the rules, basically.
Yeah. That's kind of what I thought, that they would just rise to the top because you'd made the effort to structure your data, but allegedly no.
It doesn't, and it's interesting to find out that it doesn't. However, one of the things is that structured data really helps Google. So a lot of times we're now finding that Google came out with something called the One Box about 18 months ago. And that is their ability to display the information. So if you're sitting on your mobile phone, you want to find out flight times find times of what a train is going to arrive, or and in my case it's about sport, about results, fixtures. You're getting live scoring. It dropped. Our search engine traffic dropped by over 20% because of that.
Because people don't leave the homepage.
People don't leave the homepage of Google. So actually, the structured data helps Google hugely. And it doesn't help you, it doesn't, because what we're trying to do is show the fixtures and results. So we put nice structured data, and then you realize, well, then nobody actually needs to go anywhere else to find the information.
Well, that is sort of the point, isn't it? If the more that we surrender to Google in this structured data, you're right, the less purpose anybody has. So the calorie count would be a great thing. If she's putting recipes up, and one of the key points of data is what's the calorie count, well, she could quite easily conceal that, and that might be the very bit of information which gets the people to click onto her property.
And then I think you've covered this as well again before, Nathan. When we're going towards the new world, which is voice, so in other words, asking Alexa or Siri, you're only going to get one result back.
You're
only going to get one result back, and
usually it's Wikipedia.
And if it's all delivered in there, then you literally everything you're doing is lost. So it's a really interesting area that they're doing. And where do you go? I
don't know, but I was fascinated to find out that wasn't a crucial thing, because I just thought it was. Right, I am gonna have to go.
Maybe a kind of way to go around this concept is to follow the rules so that you get like the visibility, but use the snippet area to actually create some kind of a call to action that will entice people in of some sort. Don't include the calorie count, and put in the snippet, click here to see the calorie count.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, make that the structured data. Click here to everything. All the structured data is just links. I bet they'll smell a rat. I'm gonna have to go very soon because I've got to go and get my kids from school. But very quickly, what's happening this week, Vito?
And I'm just, I've been doing these calls for weeks now, like 10 calls a day. And we're building up to something awesome that I showed to both of you guys before the call. So just a few weeks until I can actually talk about this. I can't wait, because I've been working on this for months. My entire week is going to be consumed by something that I can't talk about.
It's very good, though, is all I'm going to say. It's very exciting. What about you, Leo?
It's nothing to do with WordPress, but I just thought it was interesting. Last week was the final recording of a podcast that I listened to, the West Wing Weekly. It's the TV program from 20 odd years ago. And I went to the live version of it. End of last year, they did the live one in London. There was over 3,000 people at Hammersmith Apollo. It is Apollo, isn't it? Live at the Apollo, and it's just amazing that the technology of podcasting has grown to that point that it's going to be it's selling out stadia and selling out major venues. So Nathan,
what am I doing wrong?
You're reassured that your career for life is coming together.
If I start talking about like 80s or 90s television shows, I'm going to start the Dallas and Dynasty podcast.
I think they're out there actually.
We'll talk about all right.
But the point is, it's just amazing that we are producing things are being produced that can from the technology. I'm just sitting here with the three of us looking at this technology that we're using here, and the quality of it. It's an amazing experience, and hopefully for people listening as well. That's it. That's how these things just are always moving on.
I saw this documentary on Netflix just the other week about the gaming industry and how that kind of evolved into stadiums and stuff like that. Really interesting film to see, because you can see how in the beginning it's this, man. they're sitting like a few people, each one in their own room. And then fast forward 7-8 years, and they're all in the stadium with like,
little
crazy.
19-year-old kid playing on a game, and he won $1 million the other week. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Absolutely. But it's no different to, your parents' generation saying, go out and play a ball. And then I'm like, but now they're saying to me, well, why are you watching football? And it's like, and I say to my kids, why you're not even playing the games anymore. You're watching them. It's the same argument. It's exactly the same argument. It just comes around.
Right, I'm gonna have to say goodbye, so I'm gonna mute everybody's mics and put on this screen. Thank you so much for coming on today, guys. Really appreciate it. Speak to you all soon. Bye.